All right, everyone, it's 12:35 and I think it's a good time for us to get started. Thank you so much and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Lunch and Learn hosted by the Field Center for Entrepreneurship at Baruch College. Today is the launch of our spring semester's worth of seminars and lunch and learn series. And so I thank you for being here. You could be anywhere else, but we appreciate your time here. A little bit about the Center for Entrepreneurship at Baruch. We have several divisions that offer free seminars and prototyping programs and counseling and so much more. And we're represented by the Small Business Development Center, CUNY Startups, and Maker Hub programs, as well as we have a degree program in entrepreneurship. We offer these sort of workshops through our co-curricular programming from the Field Center and so much more. So if you want to know more about that, definitely stick around and send me an email or ask questions at the end. But today's session, I'm really happy to say that we've partnered with the Field Center at Ariel, and our speaker today is one of their stars who gives back so much. And I think we're going to have an exciting and very informational session today. And so today's session, Inspiration to Execution, Channel Your Inner Entrepreneur, is presented by Jonathan Caras. Jonathan is an accomplished entrepreneur, technology and economic specialist. His background includes founding Israel's first mobile-focused software design and development studios, App Studio, co-founding Glide, a no-coding needed app designing platform, and building Screenshop, famously known as the visual shopping app launched by celebrity Kim Kardashian. When Jonathan isn't building the next best thing, you can find him keeping busy with magic, flying drones, and performing a bit of Shakespeare. On top of all of this, Jonathan is genuinely super humble and a generous person and gives back his time and mentorship to the Field Center in Ariel. And then today, he even agreed to present at the Field Center at Baruch College. I'm so appreciative of your time, Jonathan. I know this group will have lots of questions, so everyone hold your questions to the end. We're going to take them in the last segment of our session today, and I think it'll be such an outstanding presentation. So Jonathan, if I missed anything about you, I threw in the drones, the magic, and the Shakespeare, but if I missed anything else, please feel free to
stalking me on the internet, I see.
Yes, I stalked you a lot.
Yeah, so thank you for such a warm introduction, and I have a presentation that I put together here. So let me bring this up and let's make sure that everybody can see it. And I will go into presentation mode. Okay, can you see my slide here?
Yes,
okay.
We can.
So I'll try and do the pacing correct. This is actually a subset of a 16-hour course that I've given probably about half a dozen times over the last 8 years or so at various college campuses, accelerator programs, and startup programs. So this is called Building a Successful Product. And building a successful product, I focused on the word building here because I think that is one of the most challenging things that any entrepreneur faces. Now, I'm going to get into what our goals are for this conversation, which are really two-part. How do you find something that's worth building? And then what's the process once you found something that's actually worth building? How do you figure out how to bring it to market? What's the process? Most of us have had a brilliant idea, but most of us have no idea what to do once we have that brilliant idea. So I'm going to start a little bit of my background. I was a college student. I was building websites as just an independent developer or freelancer doing some graphic design, and I had a strong relationship with a few developers at Apple. And I got an invitation once, this is back in 2007, to have early access to the iPhone software development kit. So I got some of my classmates, which you can see everybody here, and I raised a little bit of funds, and I started training some of my friends to build mobile apps. And that's when we created my first company, which you mentioned, App Studio. And my focus there and my idea was I want to be where the market is going to be. And that's the first message that I want to share with you, is that when you look at the progression of opportunity, it always comes in waves, and you will find the best opportunities, the best rewards happen whenever a market is an emerging market, whenever it's growing. So when I first saw the iPhone, I thought to myself, wow, my Palm Pilot, I don't even know if you guys know what a Palm Pilot is, but my Palm Pilot is terrible. It will never be able to compete with this. And I use my Palm Pilot every day. So I knew that this was a product that was going to be massively successful. And so I did whatever I could with whatever resources that I had in order to be able to build a team that would be able to help as many startups as possible migrate from a web app to a mobile app. And 2007 through 2011 was the perfect time to do this. Actually, you mentioned Glide, but you actually mentioned it from a definition of another company that worked in another space with the same name. So in 2011, we pivoted my software team, where after I had worked with about 40 different entrepreneurs, helping them build their vision and launch their first product. So I partnered with a friend of mine, and we started looking at the market again as to what is going to be the next big thing? What's going to be able to solve a big problem for a lot of people, and especially paying customers? And so we realized that while text messaging was becoming really popular, this was 2011, that the next stage of general communication over the internet would be mobile by nature and would be multimedia by nature. And so we began researching as to why did nobody have an instant streaming video messenger that worked on 3G, that was efficient for your battery, that was efficient for the storage on your phone, and was efficient for your bandwidth. So we realized that there were some fundamental problems in terms of how video streaming had been created. So over the course of a year, we found the right engineers, we put the right team together, and we ended up patenting a streaming video protocol, which then we used to launch a consumer-facing company called Glide, initially video texting, but then rebranded as video messaging. Now, we ended up raising about $45 million on this project from some top-tier venture capitalists. And one of the next thing that I want to mention to you is that it took over 80 investor meetings before we got the first money into the company. So by the time that we had the first vision of the product worked out and we had some of the core technology, it took about 6 months, meeting roughly whatever that math is, about 10 to 15 investors a month. Some of it was over the phone, some of it was over the email, some of it was in person. And through that, all of those times, we kept refining the product vision based on the feedback that we got, until eventually we got our first commitment of $75,000. And then we were able to grow that to $150,000. And then from that, we were really able to launch the company. So it's about founding this. This is the next message that I want to share with you, is that founding a company and having it grow is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And you have to be willing to hear those 79 no's before you're going to find that one person that says yes. We ended up getting 26 million subscribers and a very interesting partnership with Apple. Once we launched the product, we got a lot of fanfare, and through our relationships with Apple, we were prominently displayed on New and Noteworthy. We got Editor's Choice Awards, and that really helped us grow in the market. We also won TechCrunch Disrupt Audience Choice Awards in 2013. After that, we saw the next thing that I want to share with you is come 2015, the market had become incredibly saturated, and we noticed that we no longer were growing as a video messenger on the phone. And so we began looking, we were really having a lot of trouble competing with Snapchat and with Instagram. And so we realized that we would need to focus on something new. And so we saw that the next largest growing product in the space was the Apple Watch. So we worked with Apple to port our streaming video technology onto the Apple Watch, and then began developing with some Apple engineers a camera attachment for the Apple Watch, which actually just recently came to market. Hardware is a harsh business and takes a long time and a lot of capital. But the initial prototype, I was able to launch through a Kickstarter and raise a little over $2 million from about 10,000 backers to get this thing off the ground. The vision there was to leverage partnerships, to be able to integrate with social media, and then artificial intelligence to be able to have new type of innovation from the Apple Watch. After that, in 2016, I was brought in by a team representing the Kardashians. I worked with Kim for a little under 2 years. I designed 6 different applications for her, one of which called Screenshop we brought to market. Screenshop was the idea that you could take an image like this on Instagram and then scan it using artificial intelligence to be able to figure out exactly where to buy the cheapest way, or your favorite brands to be able to reproduce the outfit. So we used an Israeli company that called Sight AI that focused on artificial intelligence and computer vision. We mapped that with some of Kim's partnerships of over 100,000 product items to be able to create a user experience where you could really turn any social media page into a shopping catalog. Now, the message that I want to share here is that it was really critical to be flexible about the product vision, because when I first started working with Kim, she knew the space that she wanted to operate in, but she didn't exactly know what the product would look like. And so over time, we worked together to figure out exactly what that would look like. Afterwards, I got into the crypto space in around 2016. I sent about half a Bitcoin to one of my investors. And then in 2017, when the market took off, as you can see in this chart here, I was brought in to analyze startups that worked in the blockchain space. And so currently today, I manage around $20 million investing in early stage startups and helping them grow that are building on blockchain and with cryptocurrency. So if anyone in the audience is interested in hearing more about opportunities for startups to build within that space, happy to talk about that. I've worked with a number of other projects as an early advisor and just helping them grow. Peer-to-peer game betting is an Israeli cryptocurrency company, Starkware, that produces scalability and privacy technology. A Chinese smart contract platform where I am one of the advisors for the $30 million grant program. And more recently, a project that merges decentralized finance and Bitcoin. I led that as a community lead, helping grow the community from $80 million under management to $1.4 billion under management. So this is some of the projects that I've worked with. And so the information that I'm going to share with you roughly over the next half hour, 40 minutes that we have left are some of the key insights that I've gained of working with these projects in many different faculties, whether it was on the marketing team, the customer support team, the engineering team, being an actual founder myself, being a community manager, or just being an advisor to the entrepreneurs. So the next idea that I want to share with you is the concept that it's important to focus on the minimal viable product and to understand that an idea for a startup is not particularly valuable. An idea, if you wanted to do, this is a nice info or equation, that brilliant execution is worth $10 million. There's no such thing as $1 million idea. At best, the best idea that you could ever come up with is worth 20 bucks. And the way that you turn that $20 idea into $1 million idea is through your execution. And here you can kind of see a tongue-in-cheek or a high-level um, uh, equation, multiplication table, even a so-so idea with excellent execution is worth $5 million. Now, why can that be? How is that possible? Really, the answer is that when you have excellent execution and you learn how to execute, then what you come away with is the flexibility to be able to update and change your idea. And not only that, and this is the next thing if you're taking notes, most ideas start out as an awful idea. And it's only through execution that you mature an awful idea to become a brilliant idea. So how does one get an idea for their startup? There's really three different ways that I've seen, or three different categories. And I just want to mention again that I can't really take credit for any of the information that I'm sharing in this slide. Most of this information, or really all this information, or any of these slides, I didn't invent myself. It purely just came from interacting with other entrepreneurs, from advisors, from people that I respect, or books that I've read. So I would challenge you. You know, there's we have 2 ears and we have 1 mouth. So one of the things that you can learn from that is that you should listen twice as much as you talk, and that in life, at any stage of your life, you have an opportunity to decide whether or not that you're a teacher or whether or not you're a student. And it's very hard for somebody that's positioned themselves as a teacher to continue to learn. So always try and think of yourself as a student. And there's a famous story that comes from a Jewish liturgy, which is that the best way that you can learn is from the people that you teach. So even if you do find yourself in a position where you're teaching about any subject, whether it's how to build a company, you should always take away from it, recognize that your main goal in being an educator is to continuously learn. So that is a backdrop. I want to talk about 3 different types of ideas and where they come from: the spontaneous idea, the insider idea, and the deliberate idea. So the spontaneous idea is one that it hits you when you're in the shower, driving in your car, you're talking with your friends, you're doodling during a meeting. The dots suddenly connect in a new way and you have an epiphany. Your sudden insight is surprising and exciting, and the value of this new idea seems obvious. You can't believe nobody else has thought of it before. I'm sure every single one of you wouldn't have showed up to this meeting if you hadn't had a spontaneous idea. Spontaneous ideas are the most fun to have and most energizing to pursue, but they're often the worst ideas because they haven't gone through much due diligence, they haven't gone through much peer review, and they're incredibly biased, but they're a great starting point. So the next is the insider idea. You've spent the last 7 years building enterprise software for airlines. You've noticed some voids in the product stack or issues with how your company brings it to market. You point these deficiencies out to your bosses, but there are other company priorities right now and nothing changes. Or say your company pays vendors a lot of money to do some work, but nobody ever seems happy with the results. And you see a way to do it better for less. Or maybe you witness your company kill an amazing product or idea because of bureaucracy or testing didn't show interest, or not because testing didn't show interest, but because of bureaucratic, political, or organizational reasons. So this is the insider idea. This is a much more powerful idea, but it often isn't pursued because the person who usually has this level of expertise has a cushy job. And the fear of entrepreneurship, of leaving your job to pursue your dreams, often prevents most great ideas from coming to market. The last is the deliberate idea, which is in many cases the strongest. In this case, you're not starting with a business idea. Instead, you're starting with the desire to create a new business and become an entrepreneur. You might be ready to quit your job or go for it wholeheartedly, or just start on the side from your desk. But you're looking for the right business idea to pursue, which could be a business related to your work, as we said in number 2. Now, what's interesting is that the best entrepreneurs, and whenever I interview entrepreneurs, whether it's for a potential partnership or for an investment opportunity, I always try and get to the core as to why they're building what they're building, how they came up with the idea. And the strongest, most successful entrepreneurs that I found, it actually was a combination of all 3 of these. It's someone who already through their professional experience previously was an expert in a certain industry. Then they decided, you know what? I want to do something. They find a problem that they're really an expert in that speaks to them very loudly. And they say, you know what, I'm gonna solve this problem. And then they have an epiphany at some point as to how to solve the problem. And then they continue to iterate and evolve it. And so that's a combination of all three of these approaches. Now, ideas need to grow before they become successful. Most ideas change significantly before they become products. And see, here we see the tongue-in-cheek image here, measure twice, cut once, where the word once is cut in half because someone who created this woodwork obviously didn't do that. They probably did it on purpose for the sake of the the memorabilia here, but you get the point. So ideas change significantly before they become products. Jumping straight to the building phase slows down to the time to market for an idea that's actually worth building. So something that I want to share with you, another point if you're taking notes, is that the fastest way to ruin your startup is to jumpstart and just hire a $10,000 outsourcing engineering team to just build your app or your idea. Usually what people go, and this is the I call it the fast road to failure, is they come up with a spontaneous idea. They convince somebody to help fund them. It's usually in the realm of $5,000 to $10,000, or sometimes they just take their own savings and then spend it on it. And then they jump to hiring somebody to just build this half-baked idea. And that idea usually goes nowhere. In my first company, App Studio, we inherited a lot of these projects. I would say at least 10 of the entrepreneurs that I worked with were ones that were frustrated that they didn't get what they wanted, or that the idea didn't work, or that the people that they shared it with didn't understand it. But it was usually because it was a half-baked idea that they didn't bring to market with enough research. So let's take some examples. Yelp was a website that allowed you to automate sending email recommendations to friends. So imagine this. I fill out, here's my favorite sushi restaurant. Here's my favorite movie theater. Here's my favorite dry cleaner. Here's my favorite acupuncturist. I'm going to write all these down, and then I'm going to put in all my friends' email addresses, and then they're going to get spammed with my recommendation, and they're going to get pitched that they should put all their recommendations out and then send it back to everybody else in the circle. Problem was, nobody really wanted that. So Yelp then pivoted to being the Yellow Pages for crowdsourced Yellow Pages. And then they ended up growing. And at the time, I guess the first time I wrote this lecture was probably 5 or 6 years ago. They had 50 million users a month and 17 million monthly reviews online. So next, a great example was YouTube. YouTube started as a dating app called Tune In Hook Up. They actually optimized for video uploading, and they became the most popular place to upload your own videos, selling to Google for around $1.6 billion. And again, at the time of writing this, they had over 35 hours of video uploaded to YouTube per minute on average per year. Woot was also something that had a great pivot story. So they were wholesale electronics inventory. What they found was that by broadening it to being daily deals in any category, they were able to grow massively. And then in 2010, they were sold for over $100 million to Amazon. So how do startups fail? Most products fail because they have no market need. That means that nobody actually wants the product that you were thinking of building. In an interview of the top 20 reasons why startups fail, the most common one, and you'll notice these don't add up to 100 because entrepreneurs could click on more than one box, was that the market really didn't need the product that these guys spent all their money building. And then the second most reason that they failed is because they ran out of cash. You know why they ran out of cash? Because they spent all their money building something that nobody needed. Then after that, it's about not having the right people on the team. And only after that, it's about getting outcompeted. So when it comes to being outcompeted, I want to focus on this. If you've got a great, brilliant idea, that you think is worth $1 million, the best thing that you can do is tell everybody about it. Now that sounds counterintuitive because you're probably afraid that somebody's going to go and steal it. But the thing is, it's really hard to take an idea and bring it to market. And even if somebody did try to steal your idea and bring it to market, the likelihood that that's going to be the reason why you're unsuccessful is so astronomically small. It's probably less than 1%. So the benefit that you will get by getting feedback from other people on how to improve your product idea is far greater than the risk that somebody else is going to steal the idea. So before you start building, how do you make sure that your idea can be improved? So there's something called the lean market validation. This is not a thing that I thought of. Again, I didn't think of any of this stuff in here. I'm just collecting it. So lean market validation has many different approaches, but my favorite three are Fake Door, Storyboard, and Concierge. So we're going to run through some of these. And again, they're not really competing. They actually work best when you do them all together. So Fake Door testing is simply a marketing page, an ad, a button, or other assets that advertise a product that's yet to be made. Fake Door testing is the go-to idea testing of Zynga games. They create a 5-word summary of a new game that they're considering. They make a few ads. They put it up on various high-traffic websites. And then they only build the games that attract a certain number of clicks on their Fake Door. I've used Fake Door testing on probably every product that I came to market with. In Glide video messaging, we saw that there were people on Twitter that were sharing their username and saying, hey, anybody else on Glide in Chicago? And so we added, we interviewed some of those customers, and they said that they were using it to meet new singles. They were using it like almost as an alternative to Tinder. And so we put a button in the application that said, hey, would you like to meet other people in your area? Click here. And then when they clicked on it, it simply brought them a pop-up that said, yeah, we're building this feature. Would you like to be notified when it's ready? And then we saw the feedback that we got from that, and it was strong enough that we actually wanted to build it. Next is storyboard testing. This is a form of informal qualitative testing that gets you out of the building and talking to potential customers. To run a storyboard test, you draw out your ideas in the form of a storyboard. You can think of it like a comic book. Storyboard should be short and sweet, and it'll cover the main problem your customers face and how your business will solve it. I'll show you an example of storyboarding in a minute. The next is the Concierge MVP. So this is simply a version of a product or service that you intend to offer, but all the work is being done by a human. And that human's probably you as the entrepreneur. You don't actually build much when you build a Concierge MVP. So for example, with our app with Kim, Screenshop, we had an idea that, that people would be able to upload their own photos, and then we would be able to recommend complementary items that they could buy based on the photos of themselves that they added to the network. So what we found was that people would upload photos, and then they would want to know recommendations. And in order to do this, we would need to build out a whole new AI, a whole new artificial intelligence. And that would have cost us millions of dollars. So what we initially did was just hired a few students to just manage a dashboard, which we simply put together. And then whenever new items came in, new photos came in, they would just quickly do a Google search, and they would find something that they thought was cute or completed the outfit, and then they would recommend it to the customer. So we found that customers really liked this, but it didn't really increase sales, or it didn't increase sales to a point that we were confident that it should be worth building. So sometimes doing this type of approach, actually most time in doing this type of approach, you end up deciding what not to build, which is just as valuable, because building the wrong thing ruins your opportunity cost, and it also ruins your treasury. So, and the most limited things that any entrepreneur has are the money that they're spending and the time that they have. So, jumping back to the middle one of storyboarding. So, what are the questions that you want to ask yourself when you build a storyboard? The main one is how would your customer, even your first customer, learn about you? What's the onboarding process? Because from the onboarding process, if it's an advertisement, if it's a friend that's going to show them the app, that's going to frame and anchor your product in their mind. It's going to anchor certain use cases, and it's going to help define how you need to educate them and what the value offering is that you need to provide for them. Then you need to ask yourself, well, what's the problem that you're solving for them? And what's the minimum steps that you can provide value, ideally solving this problem? And then how do you get them to pay you? If you can create a narrative through a storyboard or like a comic book that will answer all of these questions, that will help you design your product and solve a lot of heartache in terms of building a product later. So what does a storyboard look like? It starts out like this. I usually start with a pen and paper. I move on to a larger whiteboard once I have worked out some of the finer details, and only then do I get a computer involved. I find that the tactical response of pen and paper or magic marker on a whiteboard is much more conducive for collaborative work than sitting at a computer. And then using something like Balsamic or Google Draw is usually good enough. You want to focus on low fidelity. That means black and white, very simple user interface, so that the person that's using it can really focus on the user experience that you provide, as opposed to any of the nuance of the application or the design. Concierge MVP, you'll usually focus on what's the minimum that needs to be built in order to complete the storyboard that you created. You might find on here that a person, let's say that you were going to build a dating app for dog lovers. I don't know. I'm just making it up off the top of my head. So for that, you would have people create their own profiles, and then they would get matches. So that matching engine might be incredibly challenging. Now you might say to yourself, well, I'm not sure what's the best way. How are we going to have a good matching engine? And I don't even know what a dog owner of a Chihuahua maybe is a good dog owner for a pit bull. I don't know. So the best thing is before you try and build those types of algorithms, if you build something that just requires human work to be able to fulfill the things that were created on the storyboard, so that's the Concierge MVP. So what's the minimum that needs to be built in order to complete your storyboard from your customer's perspective? In terms of MVP, which stands for minimal viable product, many people think of it as just what's the simplest thing that I can build. The problem is that in many cases, the simplest thing that you can build doesn't provide value. It doesn't have the V in MVP. It's not a viable product. So again, in the case of if you were going to build a car, you might think, well, if I'm going to build a car, I need to build a wheel, which isn't going to make somebody very happy because they can't do anything with a wheel. Then also, well, what if I build wheels with axles? So that's also not going to make anybody happy. Okay, well, what about the frame with no engine? Also, zero happiness. You see how angry this little guy is here. And then only once you add the final product, which could be years away, does it provide value for the customer. A much better way to focus on an MVP is the idea of the skateboard to the Razor scooter, to the bicycle, to the moped, to the convertible. At each one of these stages, the problem, which was transportation in this case, could be solved by a product that you brought to market. This is kind of the best way to think about an MVP. Now, one of the best ways to do a fake door test that I found is using ads for your research. Now, this is through something called split testing. Split testing enables a cost-effective method to determine which product vision your target audience will prefer. So I mentioned the fake door testing with Zynga, which was a popular gaming company about 10 years ago. So the idea here is that you will take 3 different main concepts. These could be different products. These could be different variants on a product vision. You'll then break each of those up into another 3, and these numbers don't need to be exact. You could do this with just 2 variants, which is often called A/B testing, and then just 2 variants underneath them. And then you want to create a lot of nuances. It could be slightly different languages. It could be slightly different images. And you'll run each of these tests. You could put $30, $50 into each of these tests, spending about $1,000 in total. And that will give you significant insight as to who's the audience that clicks on your ads, which ads did they click on that were more popular, what time of day did they click, what location were they in, what was their gender, their age, their average family income. It will help determine which product or nuance of a product vision that you should come to market with. You also can use ads to determine a market size. There's many tools that exist in the market today to help you identify things like age, location, income, gender. And so even before you spend ads, just using the AdWords tools, which does make you sign up with a credit card, but it doesn't cost anything to actually use it, will be significantly valuable insights into the market that you're going after. And make sure that you're going after a market that's large and ideally a market that can pay. There's two different types of ads. There's search intent and discovery. Discovery ads are like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, influencer marketing. Search intent is Google. It's really Bing, not really Bing. Bing is only good for cars and a few other like large purchase items. Mostly it's just Google. And now, if you know that people are coming around and searching for something that you, a product that you provide, like they are looking for, a drive-through dog washer. So that's something that somebody might, shampooing my dog in Cleveland, or dog walking, let's say, in Cleveland. So that's something somebody would search. That makes sense to run a campaign for your fake door testing or your A/B testing through Google. If it's something that's more conceptual that nobody's specifically going to be, looking for, then it makes sense to do discovery ads on Facebook or the like. When a person, once you do an ad campaign, you can put together a landing page. And a landing page, it enables you to collect information about your customer without building the full product. So there's lots of services to make it really easy, even free, to make a landing page. So that could be Wix, that could be Unicorn Platform, LaunchRocket. There's about a dozen others. You can just look for services to build a landing page. And the way that it works is you create the advertisements, you put them on Facebook and Google, and then you have them funnel people to a landing page where you collect their email address or their phone number, and you get permission from them to follow up. And then you interview the people to do market research for the product you want to build. Again, you're going to have to expose your idea before you built it. That's okay. Nobody's going to steal your idea. And even if they do, don't care about it. The upside from sharing your idea is much better. And in most cases, I don't even remember who Howard Aiken is. You can Google him. He's probably pretty smart. If you've got a great idea, it means it's disruptive, and it means that it's early, and it means that it's in a growth stage, which means that it hasn't been fully fleshed out. And that means that people are going to instantly reject it. So that means you're going to have to shove it down people's throats in order to get them to take the time to understand it. When you go to build this MVP, you want to focus on determining product market fit. That's the goal of your MVP. Is there really a need for this product? And will I be able to make money off of this product? And you want to validate your high-risk assumptions. So whenever you think of a startup, you probably have assumptions that you didn't even think of. And those assumptions, if they're inaccurate, could totally destroy your entrepreneurial idea. So for example, Airbnb had this idea that maybe people will let strangers stay in their house overnight. And maybe strangers are willing to go and stay at some random person's apartment. So these were ideas that they didn't have validation for, and they really needed to work to find that validation. And then you need to quickly get actionable user feedback. You need to put out a real prototype. It could be paper or digital, and get it in the hands of users so that you can learn about how to iterate the idea and what the minimal viable product could be. So as you do this research and you kind of find out what are the most important features, so you're going to end up with 1 million different features that you need. And I literally have done this 100 times. Post-it notes are great. They come in multiple colors. You write the features down, you write the stages, and these are stages that you outline by doing an iterative approach on your storyboard. So you break up your storyboard into the high level categories. So for example, if we were doing a ride share, so it'd be create profile, enter your location, find a group, join a group, get your ride share. So then you find each of the features that needs to be included. And now you can draw a line once you've done that as to actually what is the minimal viable product? What would it be impossible to cut out? And then that's the first thing that you build and get feedback on. Then it's incredibly important to understand the first session of new users, because you know how many products I know that launch without proper analytics in them? You only have one opportunity for the first experience. And if you go and you spend tens of thousands of dollars building something and then you bring it to market and it flops and you don't learn anything from that, then you basically just wasted all that money. So it's so important to get good analytics that helps you understand the first session of a new user. So you usually get about 30 seconds, and then that's what you need. So some good examples, you know, if this was a longer form lecture, I'd actually go through a couple products that I think had great user experiences and show you what they collected. Next is usability testing. You know, for usability testing, you want to get about half a dozen people at a time. You have them either go through your storyboard and talk out what they see in their storyboard and what their experience is, or you have them use the first version of the product. You're probably going to get a lot of this. No, that's not how you're supposed to use it. And it's going to be really frustrating or painful for you. But you get everything on film, you define the tests, you feed them, give them pizza, give them soda, give them an Amazon gift card or something. They should feel good about the fact that they're spending their time working with you. And make sure that they are part of the target audience, the correct demographic that you validated from your fake door testing that you did through A/B testing of ads. So that's kind of the first 6 months of any startup. Obviously, there's nuances to it. Obviously, you've got to find what works best for you. But I've worked now with well over 100 startups over the last, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years. And I'd be happy to hear what you guys are thinking of. Please type your questions in the box. And, you know, I look forward, if you want to follow me, I'm pretty active on Twitter, MadCapsLaugh. This is also my Telegram handle, and I'm pretty approachable. So thank you guys for taking the time to hear what I have to say. And I wish you all the best of luck at your next great big startup, which all starts out very small.
Jonathan, thank you so much. That was totally informative and easy to digest, because sometimes it's not easy to understand what the road ahead is in pushing through, right? So we have some questions, and I'm going to go ahead with the first one. This is from Kennedy. Thank you for this meeting. What are some suggestions that you have for execution styles or ways to learn more about the right execution?
So the execution is very challenging. It's an operational challenge. Most people are not good at project management. The best way to really learn about it is to join an early stage venture, and join it from somebody that is in a leadership position that has strong operational skills. It's often called herding cats, which is obviously a difficult thing to do, to get a bunch of cats to move in one direction, but that's what it takes in order to be successful as an entrepreneur. So most of it, what you're going to learn is either the school of hard knocks, just failing a bunch of times. And I failed 10 times for every time I've been successful. And the best way to learn and to be able to skip those failures is by having hands-on experience with seasoned entrepreneurs.
This is from Monique. She says, thank you. Currently, she teaches entrepreneurship to older, vulnerable youth. As of now, they are in the process of developing a business plan and will pitch it soon to business partners at a showcase. What advice, tips would you give to prepare them to present their business plans to the business partners?
You have to Great question. First of all, you need to go through your presentation. I would say on average, especially if it's the first time that you're ever pitching, you have to pitch 50 times before the actual real pitch. So 50 burners. And what you'll do is you have to know the material by heart, and everything has to work offline. You can't have any part of your presentation that requires an internet connection, because Murphy's Law is that anytime that you're in a stress or high, a very important presentation, everything's going to break. So make sure it's all offline. Make sure you've given the presentation 50 times before, and whatever time frame that you have allotted to give it, whether it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes, be able to do it with about 30% buffer. So meaning if they give you 15 minutes to give your presentation, you should be able to complete it at 10 minutes. And then you should be able to learn how to read the audience. Hopefully you'll be able to see the audience. And then judge from them when they have questions and pause. Because the most successful presentations are the ones that have high audience participation, especially if there's investors in the audience. And you should know it smooth. It should be terms Glock kosher. You just should know it by heart. And one of the only way to do that is by recording yourself pitching and then watching it. And it is the most painful thing to do. There's nothing I hate more than watching myself get up there and stammer and say and forget what slide I'm on. But the only way that you get better is just through repetition. So that's, and if you can't do 50, at least commit to 15.
From Romeo, how do you go about being an entrepreneur, as in allocating a budget from your employer to pursue a new venture?
Oh, this I don't have a good answer for. I made a lot of mistakes. I basically went into debt in my early company, and there were a lot of times that I just didn't know. We didn't know how we'd pay rent or how we'd buy food, and I had one kid at the time, and so I would not recommend that. I'd give yourself, first of all, you need buy-in from your significant other. That's critical. You cannot be a successful entrepreneur if your significant other is not 100% in support of you, because one of two things is going to happen when times get tough, and they always get tough, is that either it's going to significantly negatively impact your personal relationship, and then that creates, it just screws everything up, or you're going to be given an ultimatum of choose the business or choose me. And in many cases that will cause you to just have to abandon the company. And I found this with co-founders, is that when you can kind of smell when you have a co-founder who their spouse really doesn't have buy-in in it. And I've never seen those co-founders make it to the finish line. So it's just, I would say that in terms of budgeting, you need to know when your breaking point is, need to know what your pacing is. And then you need to be really honest with yourself and have a strong level of support and infrastructure internally to be able to make it to that breaking point, and then also to be able to walk away. It's one of the most painful things is to walk away from a failed entrepreneurial endeavor, but you can just end up wasting years of your life pursuing something that's just a waste of time because it was just too embarrassing to say that you failed.
That was heavy.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be so negative.
No, but that's truth.
Yep.
So Rosario,
I'll share the presentation. So any of the links and stuff there, you'll be able to get from it. And the landing pages, those are old ones. I've been using those for like a decade. Just Google make a landing page. You'll find like 20 different options, and they might be better than both of those companies.
I may have missed saying this at the beginning. This video will be available. The slides will be available to everyone as well. So you'll get an email from me, and you'll find it all on our website as well. Rosario has a question. What would be your advice for digital businesses that provided online education? How they can grow digitally?
So growth is always a big challenge. Growth either comes from two different things: a traditional, top-down marketing, which you have, you really need to focus on lifetime of customers and customer acquisition costs, which with today's tools can be very accurately measured. You can say, okay, if it takes me $8 to get an average sign up, and the average person I'm generating $4 from, so that means that you don't have something that scales up. And so then you really scale it up once you see that it's it costs you $4 to get a new sign up, and on average you can make $15 off of that. Now, obviously, the average is very misleading. Your median purchase price might be $3,000, but you only get that from a very small percentage of the people that sign up. So, if you're doing a top-down approach, you have to be very analytical and very pragmatic and dogmatic about your approach as to how you're going to optimize the different elements of the funnel and your ad campaigns. And you're probably going to work with a professional that knows how to optimize ads and optimize your onboarding and your sign up. But even before that, when it comes to online education, it's a very crowded space. It's called called a red ocean because the sharks have basically eaten all the fish in it. So I would be very confident before I tried to scale that up with customer acquisition that I had a product that was 10 times better than the nearest competitor, and that I had very clear market validation. You could spend the next 3 years with getting 100 customers a year, just iterating the product to make sure that you were actually holding at that level. And that's probably worth it more than pumping a bunch of money into marketing. The other way that you can market is from the ground up approach, where you figure out how to get each one of your customers to become a marketer, and then they help grow more customers. So Uber did that, where if you sign somebody else up, you get $10 on your next ride, and they get a $10 way to do it, which also requires, customer acquisition costs. Obviously, they paid $20 for every new customer that they got. But that was very successful. It's been very successful for many businesses. So you can try both of these approaches. They're not mutually exclusive, but they do take a lot of focus.
This question is from Omar. He's not sure if he caught this quite right, but you mentioned that you managed a fund targeted at investing in startup businesses. And if that's correct, what key characteristics do you look for in a startup before investing?
So I only invest in the blockchain space. That's, again, as I said in the beginning, so I manage a $20 million fund there. And in addition to that, I do outreach and scouting for some other funds that we co-invest with. The main thing is that you're going to be judged on a few different categories. One is the quality of the team, how well they know the problem, how well they've worked together. Do they have the right skill sets? Do they have the right experience? The second is just about product. Is this a good product? Is this the right team to execute the product? Do they have the chops to be able to actually build this product? And is it the right timing for this product to come to market? Many times a great idea could just be 5 years too early or 5 years too late. And so then it's just not investable. And then the third thing is the core competency, the secret sauce, defensibility, technology, can they actually execute? So is it the right people? Are they at the right place at the right time with the right idea? And can they actually pull it off from a technical and operational perspective? Those are the three faculties that I like to judge or to score potential investments.
Evelyn asks, do you have suggestions for startups which people in the team may have a lot of ideas and want to pursue innovation? Meanwhile, the infrastructure isn't fully ready or strong enough to pursue innovation. Should they still go with pursuing the ideas, or should they strengthen the infrastructure first?
To be honest, I don't really understand the question, but if I'm going to take a stab at it anyways. And feel free to clarify your question in writing while I'm writing. Something that can't be executed, can't be invested in, it can't be tested on a market, and it can't be monetized. So for example, before the iPhone existed, or before, let's say, a smartphone in general existed, or even before smartphones were prevalent with a billion people holding them in their pocket, Uber would have been impossible. You could not have built Uber in 1995. for many reasons, which I don't have to, get into. And so what would be the point of devoting your life to try and build an Uber in 1995 before a handheld computer was prolific?
I think you've probably hit on it. It may have been the question regarding whether there's so many chefs in the kitchen with so many different recipes and ideas, but there is no foundation properly put together to execute on any. And so I guess maybe that was where her question was going. If she provides more, we'll circle back to that.
Sure.
Jorge is asking, you mentioned that sharing ideas was a great idea. And so I asked, what are your future ideas and insights? And what niche should we focus for the next 5 years?
Okay, so I think that ownership of digital custody is just at its infancy. That the idea that like, for example, I'm sure most of you guys saw what happened recently with Robinhood and GameStop stock and things like that. So the idea that if I buy a GameStop stock, I can't email that to you, and the only way that I could sell it to you is if Robinhood approves that I sell it to you. That is antiquated. That's part of an old financial ecosystem, and what the future ecosystem will be that I could that a company like GameStop could issue their stocks, and anybody could buy them, and you could hold them on an app on your phone, and if you wanted to move them from Schwab or to Robinhood to some third party, or even just plug them into any other application, maybe Reddit would be able to itself have a subreddit that then could store stocks and then trade them. So ownership of digital assets, and I use the GameStop stock narrative because it's something that's relevant. But imagine your Facebook profile, imagine your Twitter handle. The fact that I don't own that Twitter owns that they can just cut me off from it. Now, obviously, they could censor it and say, we're not going to show you in the feed algorithm. But the fact that avatar isn't something that I can actually own, that it's something that can be taken away from me, I think that is something that that's going to be viewed as historical, part of an older system that will be replaced by newer systems. Which, like, for example, if you have a self-custodial wallet and you own a Bitcoin, nobody can take that away from you. Now, Bitcoin is represented as a store of value, like a digital gold, and nobody can make a new Bitcoin, and nobody can take a Bitcoin away from you. But that same concept has value that can exist pretty much amongst our entire digital space. Even like my email, I would like to own my email. Currently today, I don't. Gmail owns it. So I think digital rights it will open up, just like how mobile computers with GPSs in them opened up entrepreneurs to be able to build many new business infrastructure, whether that was Foursquare or Yelp or what's it called, Uber, etc., Waze, traffic monitoring. All these things came on the fact that then we had computers with GPS in our pocket. So I think there's going to be digital asset ownership is going to also open up a whole new wave of entrepreneurship. So that's something I'm very excited about, and playing an active role. I've deployed millions of dollars of capital into helping make that a reality. And I'm just a small fish in the industry. It's almost a $1 trillion industry in total, and it's still in its infancy. I'm sure most of you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, so I apologize. And then in addition to that, I think that that privacy will play a big role in the future. That we, as we own our digital fingerprint or footprint, that the rights of advertisers or the limitations of those rights, that will create a lot of innovative opportunities. And then I think that, I mean, there's what I could give a whole lecture on futurism and where I think that the market is going, but this is all cutting edge stuff. And if you guys don't, if you have no idea what's happening in the blockchain space, you really should, because I think this is a bigger evolution than the creation of the internet, because it touches very much on a foundational element of humanity, which is self-sovereignty, and it's just getting started.
Thank you so much for that. We have gone a little bit over time, but I want to end with a thank you that comes from Lisa Field, who is in our audience today. I'm going to see if I can unmute her, if that's possible. Oh, I think she just left. But
I'm here.
Oh, you're here, Lisa. So if you would your thank you in
Hi.
please feel free to say thank you. Lisa Field is one of Lawrence Field's daughters and part of our endowing family. And I appreciate you being here with us today.
Well, I appreciate being here. It's not lunchtime where I am. I'm on the West Coast, but it was breakfast and learn. And I did learn a lot, Jonathan. Thank you so much. And what I said in the chat was, thank you for having your own career, being a busy guy with kids, and still taking the time to reach back and pull the next gen entrepreneurs up and give them information and wish them well and let them know that there's community out there for them to strive for and that will help them and support them, that they're not alone. So thank you, Jonathan.
Well, thank you. That's it is again, it's that we learn the most when we teach, and I strongly believe that the universe gives you back to what you give out to others, and that that I know professionally, personally, sanity wise, I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for the many people that selflessly helped me. So I will always make it a part of my foundation to help the next generation of entrepreneurs succeed.
We so appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We won't keep you any longer. Look out for an email from me with the recording from today, the slides, and for the next Lunch and Learn, which is in 2 weeks. So hope to see you all then. Thank you so very much, everyone. Have a great day.